the thing about doing this kind of thing is you delegate these big jobs. You know, I never organized that thing that we did, not really. Yeah. But what did I do? I approved the place. You know, I thought that you would be a great person to do it. The other day, someone asked me a question.
The problem with this kind of work is that you have to assign these large tasks. I never planned what we did, you know? Not at all. However, what did I do? I gave the location my approval. You know, I thought you would be a perfect candidate. I was asked a question the other day. Really, I had never been asked before. Mick, after all these years, who are the 5 people you love the most? They asked. I chuckled for a moment, because that's not the same as asking who the best musicians were. The best musicians, well, that's a topic of endless debate. It's personal. The people you adore. I've been surrounded by exceptional people for the most of my life. Some of them rose to fame, while others were already well known. Some were only in my life for a single chapter, while others were there for a very long period. However, each of them left behind something. You don't give that much thought while you're young. You're too preoccupied with planning the next tour, recording the next album, and figuring out where you'll be the next week. You never think you'll get to a point in your life where the majority of your favorite memories are past you rather than in front of you. However, that's life. As I've gotten older, I've seen that my thoughts have shifted from performances to individuals. The concerts are remembered. Before we entered the stage, I recall who was standing next to me. The records are recalled by people. I recall the chats that took place after everyone had left for their homes. These are the things that stick with you. Over the years, I've had the good fortune to meet some amazing folks. I laughed more at some than at others. I learned lessons from others without even recognizing it. Even though they were only in my life for a little period of time, they managed to leave me with enduring memories. Well, I did give that subject some thought. Almost instantly, 5 names sprang to mind. They mattered so lot to me, not because they were the biggest stars or the most gifted. Charlie Watts was the first name that sprang to mind. Few people will likely be surprised by it. Charlie and I spent the most of our life together if you knew anything about the Rolling Stones. People typically noted how unusual we were when they looked at us. I moved around the stage all the time. Charlie hardly moved. I relished the mayhem that seemed to accompany our band everywhere we went. Quiet times always seemed to make Charlie happier. That, according to others, made us an odd couple. I never did. Every band needs someone like Charlie, in my opinion, someone who doesn't need to be the loudest individual present. Someone who is at ease letting others take the stage. That's how Charlie was. He never seemed to want to prove anything. Night after night, year after year, he just turned up, sat behind his drums, and performed what he always did. Consistency in music is a topic of discussion. Charlie experienced it firsthand. His dependability was something I always valued. Charlie didn't cause any drama. He would arrive before 2 if rehearsal began at 2. You never questioned whether Charlie would be prepared for our concert that evening. He was at all times. Trust becomes something you don't even consider after working with someone for so long. It simply becomes the norm. It was sufficient for me to hear him count us in. Everything else appeared to work itself out. He was an elegant drummer, of course, and everyone remembers that. They are correct. No one could match his style. However, the music is not the first thing that comes to me when I think of Charlie. I consider the dude. I consider all the hotels, dressing rooms, airports we sat in together, and miles we covered without either of us understanding how much time had passed. After spending so many years with someone, they no longer feel like a bandmate. They are merely a part of your daily existence. That's why it felt so weird to lose Charlie. We had lost more than just our drummer. I had lost someone who had always been there, someone I had anticipated seeing again. Even now, whenever I hear one of our old records, I can't help but listen to Charlie more than anyone else. That's what happens, I guess, when someone has been in your life for a long time. You can't recall a single significant event. You recall a lifetime of small children. The next individual that crossed my mind exuded an entirely different kind of energy everywhere she went. I want to talk about Tina Turner next. Few people have the ability to stop you from staring at everyone else when they step onto a stage. Tina was capable of having that kind of presence. The performances were seen by the public. The voice was visible to them. They witnessed that amazing energy. I also witnessed those incidents. She isn't on this list, though, for that reason. Tina never complicated things, so I always liked being around her. It was easy to laugh and converse with her. Some people in this industry seem to be performing non-stop, even when they go off the stage. That wasn't Tina. After the show ended, she was just Tina. I've always valued that. People probably don't realize how much time we spent chatting whenever our paths met. We would occasionally discuss music. We would occasionally discuss life on the road. At times, we would rarely discuss work at all. That's typically what occurs once you've been doing something for a certain amount of time. You cease discussing careers. Instead, you discuss life. People still recall the times we performed together, of course. I know we had a great time, but the crowd isn't what comes to mind first. The lights wouldn't be the cause. It would be the moments before we took the stage, standing backstage, laughing, and ensuring that everything was prepared. I usually seem to remember those small moments more than the actual performances. Tina's ability to deal with everything life threw at her was one quality I found admirable. Parts of her story are known to most people. They are aware of the challenges she faced. I wasn't impressed that she made it through them. It was that she never allowed those encounters to diminish her kindness. She was still grinning. She continued to laugh. She continued to be kind to others. It is not always simple to accomplish that. Some people are transformed by success. Others are changed by hardship. Tina didn't seem to change as a result of either. She remained loyal to herself. She was the same lady I had always known when I last saw her. Gracious, vibrant worm. I started thinking more about the chats we'd had over the years and less about the music when I learned she had left. What sticks with you is humorous. Just the small moments, not the big ones. I still think about that, Tina. David is unlike anyone I've ever met, I believe. Some people have the ability to draw attention to themselves when they enter a room. David didn't need to. There was something about him that made you notice him regardless of whether he was trying to. Usually people begin by praising his inventiveness. I am aware that he appeared to change drastically every few years. The majority of artists dedicate their professional lives to preserving an image. That never appeared to pique David's interest. He was constantly searching for the next challenge, the next concept, or the next iteration of himself. I was impressed by that. Whenever we happened to cross paths, the chat never felt forced because we originally got to know one another many years ago. Naturally, we would discuss music, but we may also end up discussing movies, literature, or anything else that had piqued David's interest that week. He was interested in everything. That, in my opinion, is what made him fascinating for so long. He was always learning new things. Dancing in the street is a common topic of conversation. Every time someone mentions it, I still grin. Making that was a lot of fun. To be honest, I don't recall being concerned about its success. I recall chuckling. I recall two friends having a good time. The first thing that comes to mind is that David's willingness to adapt was one quality I found admirable. That's challenging. It's incredibly tempting to continue providing the same thing to people once they start expecting it from you. That's not how David ever worked. He followed his gut. People didn't always understand them. He never seemed to be very bothered by it. He simply continued to advance. We didn't always get to see one another. In this industry, nobody does. Everybody ends up traveling to other places, taking different trips and working on separate projects. However, it never seemed like much time had gone by when we reunited. We just continued where we had left off. I sat in silence for a long after learning that David had left. The abrupt silence of someone who had always been creating didn't seem plausible. There are a few individuals in every age that alter the perspectives of others. David was undoubtedly one of them. However, the personalities and the costumes no longer come to mind when I think about him. I reflect on the discussions. I consider the laughs and how much more fascinating an afternoon could be if David Bowie just so happened to enter the place. I now know folks who have spent years drawing comparisons between the Rolling Stones and the Beatles. I can see why. Both of us were young. Both of us were from England. Additionally, we were both recording recordings at the same time. Rivalries are adored by people. To be honest, I never thought it was so easy. Naturally, our goal was to create outstanding records. The Beatles' outstanding releases inspired the rest of us to put forth much more effort. When another band released something fresh, I'm sure they felt the same way. That is beneficial to music. Everyone benefits from it. That didn't stop me from respecting John, though. It's not one of his tunes that immediately springs to mind. Everyone is already familiar with those. I recall